Right now, Bitcoin is around $35,000. In this video, I'm going to break down the case, the technical analysis target of $50,000, how it could even happen, what could send BTC price to that target. It's in play. I want to break down some speculative but kind of big news that's floating around in terms of the spot Bitcoin ETF, and this could really be what sends Bitcoin in the next week or so to $50,000. So hit the subscribe, hit the like. Let's just jump into the video. I'm going to break down the technicals, and I want to underline the entire video by saying we're also going to look at why right now, what's happening with Bitcoin, especially from a momentum perspective, we need to be very, very careful of a potential decrease in Bitcoin price, a pullback. And so let's start. I want to actually start before we dive into this massive pattern that we see on the screen and breaking that down, the $50,000+ target. I want to start with the Bitcoin ETF speculation that's happening. New research, and this is from James over at Bloomberg. He's a Bloomberg analyst, posts a lot about Bitcoin ETF news. New research note from me today. We still believe 90% chance by January 10 for spot Bitcoin ETF approval. So if it's not going to be in the next week or so, which is potentially a window, then early January is what he's giving a 90% chance of. But if it comes earlier, we're entering a window where a wave of approval orders for all the current applicants could occur. So here's what it is. A brief window opens on November 9th for the SEC to potentially approve all 12 US spot Bitcoin ETF applicants, including Grayscale's GBTC. It will be open for at least 8 days. Even if approvals don't arrive this month, we still believe there's a 90% chance of approval by January 10th. So that's what we're looking at. This is back in play for a short-term approval in the next week. November 9th, which is tomorrow, this opens up for SEC to potentially approve the spot Bitcoin ETFs. Will it happen? Obviously, there's going to be a lot of debate around that, but it could happen. One thing I want to note, and this will pivot us into the charts and discuss a potential breakout for Bitcoin. And this plays into the macro too for Bitcoin price and crypto markets. This was over on X as well. Samson over here. I want to show you this clip as he breaks down institutional Bitcoin investors versus pretty much retail people that are holding their own Bitcoin. The two differences here and how this might play into Bitcoin markets. Check this out.
Institutional Bitcoin and then normal Bitcoin. Institutional Bitcoin might be Bitcoin that you can never take out of that system, because once it's in the coffers of BlackRock or a lot of these corporations and custodians, it may not be able to leave.
Imagine this. Imagine when Bitcoin spot ETF is here and the Bitcoin that's in these institutional investments is not able to basically kind of enter back into retail markets. Imagine that scenario.
Eventually, because maybe it's an interesting phenomenon, because then you'll have two different prices for Bitcoin. You have the institutional price, which would probably trade at a discount because it has less utility than normal Bitcoin, which you can take and spend anywhere in El Salvador or.
We talk about this supply shock as it relates to the Bitcoin halvings, as it relates to just the scarcity of Bitcoin as it just continues to increase. The scarcity is increasing, right? There's more and more scarcity as it relates to Bitcoin ecosystem and BTC, not even counting all of the lost Bitcoin that's lost forever, people losing their private keys and all that good stuff, but not good stuff, but you know what I'm saying. And we have this increase in value because of this scarcity factor. Now imagine when institutions come into play, and this is what we're talking about in this video, Bitcoin spot ETFs come into play, institutions on board, that Bitcoin is kind of taken out of the equation of retail BTC price. I think this could be a price shock for Bitcoin. So let's tie into the charts this news, right? And other things could move Bitcoin to a $50,000 target. But imagine this, if there was a Bitcoin ETF approval, and I'm not sitting here saying I think it's going to happen. We have James over here said it's possible. The window is open. That's something to evaluate and consider. It could happen. I'm not trying to hype it up at all, but imagine if it did happen. This is one factor that I really just think the $50,000 target could be hit, right? And oftentimes we have so much structure on the charts, and there's oftentimes an event, a headline event that actually triggers a move, that triggers a technical move, right? But I saw this post on X from Kevin Svensson over here. He's talking about this falling wedge with a breakout target of $52,000. Remember the falling wedge? Most people already forgot about it. The falling wedge breakout is still underway. So you can see the breakout there. I have it charted on this daily chart right here. And you can see this massive falling wedge going back to the bull market high in 2021. And it broke out kind of back here in January. It even revisited the upper trend line and continued up. And then what's interesting is we have this structure we've been tracking a lot on this channel, which is the rising wedge. And Bitcoin, as we know, fell below the lower trend line and pulled right back into those trend lines. And this is where Bitcoin is right now. If we look at this, right, it's at these trend line areas, it's a big resistance area, but you can see Bitcoin's actually pressing upwards, right? So we're going to talk about why we should actually be very careful with what's happening right here with these higher highs and higher lows on the daily. But I just want to note something. The breakout target of the rising wedge that we just looked at, right, is around $50,000, maybe a little bit more. And then the falling wedge, this massive falling wedge, is also around $50,000, a little over $50,000. That's a 40% increase for Bitcoin. It really could just happen, right? We never know. And one of the things, and there could be other headline events maybe that trigger this move, but one of the things that truly could trigger the move is if during this window in the next week or so, just over a week, if a Bitcoin spot ETF was approved, there's no guarantees, but just looking at this daily chart, I'm quite certain Bitcoin's going to absolutely explode at the very least through this upper trend line resistance that we've been tracking as well. Maybe we've been talking about maybe one more swing high in the $37,000 area, hitting resistance and then retracing. But if there's a spot Bitcoin ETF approval, this I think will be broken. And then we're talking truly $50,000 Bitcoin in play. The reason I'm saying be careful is for multiple reasons. Number one, the Bitcoin spot ETF, there's a very strong likelihood and a strong case that it's not going to be approved until January, right? And if that's the case, we might not have that headline event that's triggering this crazy parabolic move for Bitcoin. And we are relying on also just technical analysis data. So you can see on the daily chart, we have these higher highs, higher lows. You can see this uptrend on the daily. It looks nice. It's pulling into the 20-day moving average in green. But what we have happening right now in the RSI, the slower moving momentum oscillator, is we have lower highs. Momentum is fizzling out while price is kind of seeing these shorter term higher highs, right? That's bearish divergence. The reason I'm bringing it up is because this is what we've seen before, right? Bitcoin just making a really powerful move and then consolidating. And we can see it's back here in January. Let's kind of zoom in on this. You can see Bitcoin making a really nice move. And after the nice move, just consolidating on the daily, higher highs and higher lows. Looks really nice, even pulling into the 20-day moving average once again. And you can even see the RSI, what was it doing? Very similar to what it's doing now, lower highs. So higher highs and higher lows on the price chart, lower highs on the Bitcoin momentum oscillator, and that led to an eventual just pullback, right? And you can see Bitcoin on the RSI dipping. And then we get one more pop to the upside and then a even bigger dip for Bitcoin to kind of actually finally hit oversold, right? We could be in a very similar environment from a technical analysis perspective. This is a daily chart. These things take days to happen, right? You can even see back here, Bitcoin was in this uptrend in the short term 4 days while this was kind of cruising to the downside on the RSI, and then the fall happened, right? We're similar type of situation. Higher highs, higher lows, bearish divergence, and then boom, all of a sudden we could get this fall, right? And then we're analyzing, is there going to be support at the $30,000 mental area? Right, confluent with that is the 50-day moving average, and that area is just a really nice area for a potential pullback, a retracement for Bitcoin to see if there's support. And that would be Bitcoin pulling into the 30,000, into the 50-day, and ultimately the 200-day also coming to the upside. So anytime we have moving averages kind of just trending up and really Bitcoin overextended from the moving averages, we always look for Bitcoin to pull into these moving averages anyway, right? So a retracement of that type, I don't think is really even a bearish thing. Look at what Bitcoin is doing on the macro. It has exited the bear market all the way back here in November 2022. And it's up big time since. So periods of consolidation on this journey into the next halving, and you can see the next halving over here on this chart in spring of 2024. Any move of consolidation on this chart on the macro, I think is healthy, is good. Obviously, we all want Bitcoin and crypto to just keep going up. We would really enjoy seeing a $50,000 target hit in the next couple of weeks or so. But remember, I just think consolidations as we prepare to go next halving are normal. This is the type of thing that happened in the last cycle prior to the halving, and even going back here into the halving of 2016. There was consolidation. So it's something to be mindful of. One thing I do want to note in relation to the 2016 move to the upside, the explosive move from the moving average, the 20-week moving average is this. Bitcoin got quite overbought in that move before consolidating, right? So if we look at the RSI now, Bitcoin just entered overbought. There's room to kind of mimic a move like we saw back then in 2016. That could be the move to $50,000 before finally consolidating, coming back down and cooling off. So wanted to throw that data out there for you as we kind of watch crypto markets, Bitcoin markets, and really kind of digest this potential window that's open for the SEC to approve the Bitcoin spot ETF. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, everybody. I really appreciate you watching. Hit the subscribe, hit the like. I will see you in the next video. God bless.